Yes.
Awesome. All righty. So thank you,
So,
everyone.
yeah, go ahead, Jeremy. Take it away.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. And one thing we always stress to everybody is the importance of education. So we felt like we should do a little bit ourselves since we've done over 80 plus digital events over the past year and a half. We wanted to kind of take some time and just kind of share what we've been seeing and share these insights with everybody. What were your thoughts, Michael?
I think your numbers are a little low. I actually, if I have it right, there's somewhere in the 250 separate events that we've conducted since we started the actual platform. So, yeah, I think it's like 256, somewhere in that range. So
Wow.
a lot has transpired since the full digitization of our platform. My name's Michael Corcelli. I'm the founder and chairman of Fly. I started it uh, 14, 14 years ago now, and been responsible for developing the team, bringing everyone together, leading the vision, and then evolving over time, and really selecting the key um, initiatives that we take up on behalf of the alternative investment community. Jeremy, why don't you give a background about yourself and who
Sure.
you are?
So Jeremy Johnson, I assist with business development. Also on the technology side, I've been with Flyer now 2 years. It's been a pleasure. Been instrumental in helping to digitize the platform and continue to develop the product. And we're excited about the future of what's going on.
All right. So today we're here to provide you with the insights that we've gotten um, in this, 2+ year digitization process that started pre-COVID. So, Jeremy, go off to the next slide.
So what we wanted to cover was just the current state of events and why we think digital is here to stay. So one thing we've been hearing from a lot of the investors is that the investors now have a preference of discovery by online methods. Uh, One of the biggest reasons is just safety, the reduction of time spent, and they also feel like this is a much more efficient way to learn about opportunities. Before, you would have to travel across the country, book your hotel, get in your Uber or your taxi cab, get to your hotel room, get ready, get dressed, go to an event, listen to a variety of things, move around a large conference center. Now people can sit in the comfort of their home and learn about these opportunities and basically tour around the world in kind of one day. Michael, why don't you share some of the insights from a couple of people you know that have been talking about the production side of the events?
Yeah. So, producing over 200 live in-person events over the last 10+ years, I've become friends with a lot of event producers. We help one another promote and market each other's events. And I've tried to um, be open to helping anybody where it could make sense, right? With regards to our following. So, the people I've recently been in touch with that have been doing live events has seen a drop in demand of roughly 75%. I have a couple of data points. Not going to share exactly what those data points are. However, I can tell you these are super high quality events, and people just don't want to show up for one reason or another, whether it's money, whether it's fear. I can't tell you exactly, which one of those two things are driving the lack of attendance, but I can tell you that the number of attendees is way down.
Okay. So we also think a large portion of that could be the changing demographics. So A lot of people who are investors are older. They want to spend more time with their family. A lot of the younger people are just used to communicating and discovery about information through these digital products. So with that being the case, here are some of the tips that we think investors can use to get the most out of this digital experience. Um, because you now have this flexibility to sit from your house and learn about these different opportunities, digital is a great way to discover new opportunities, whether that's webcasts like ours, whether that's going on YouTube, that whether it's joining Discord channels, whether it's being able to consume more information. Information is everywhere now, and you can learn a lot more, even things that may be outside of your normal investment thesis. It's good to just understand how the world is changing. Additionally, a lot of these investments are happening on apps, different types of products, that new marketplaces. Like now you can invest in art in small chunks, you can invest in farmland in small chunks. And it seems like a lot of the different asset classes are going this route, which puts more power in the hands of the investor, but it's also going to require much more education on the side of the investor. Additionally, these digital events are great because you can monitor your actual investments. You can hear the asset managers or the providers of these services as they're going to have to communicate more. You can follow them around. You can make notes about their presentations. Michael always calls it style drift. You can make sure that the asset managers aren't drifting from the style that they use to convince you to invest in their product. And so this is just a good way to track your investments in a much more transparent way. And then lastly, we have a lot of investors who may invest in like fixed income, but they want to learn about crypto. So events like ours, events just in general, and again, just all these digital sources, they provide a much better way for people to be educated about asset classes that they probably weren't investing in or just generally had an interest. We've gotten a lot of good feedback about us providing just these different types of asset classes and helping people to at least dip their toes and get their feet wet learning about these different types. Michael, what do you think about that?
Well, I honestly think digital is way more efficient. And I think that's where the deep stack of knowledge exists today. Not just surface knowledge, but the siloed knowledge that is in a very accessible format. So when you try to learn about something, as you were talking about, you can't just think only going to focus on like the surface level. I think you can like deeply mine veins of gold when it comes to very specific expert knowledge. And I think that this format through Zoom, Zoom meetings, Zoom webinars, podcasts, the content, how easily accessible it is, that you can like basically learn about just about anything that you want. And by being able to look back and look at people's history, and listen to their story and how their story evolves, I think that's a pretty unique asset that not many people understand its true value, from the investment side. And as an asset manager, it also provides you with a date and time stamp. It provides you with a way of separating yourself from your competitors. And if you're somebody who participates in style drift, maybe it's not such a good exercise to participate in. But having something to go back to and look at, and I believe that Ernest's conversation right before our time today was perfect, because if you go back to when they were working on Fund 3, when they were launching Fund 4, and what they actually did, they basically said what they were going to do, and they executed against that plan. They didn't go from buying, multifamily in the Smile region to buying multifamily outside of, New York, because there was really good prices that fit more of the distressed model. So what I would say to you is that you can really practice proper due diligence, institutional level due diligence, no matter if you're a retail investor or you're an institution. You can practice what professionals, the tools that they use by accessing, these presentations. And the way that we like to position things is an educational format. So we're not sitting here telling people to pitch product, pitch product, pitch product. We're telling them, hey, pitch your strategy and why your strategy makes sense and why you do it the way that you do. And talk about how you manage risk, how you mitigate risk. Talk about the team and what its pedigree is. Right. So there's two sides of the equation. And Jeremy, we're really bringing together the marketplace. And it was nice when Ernest said, he was proud to be part of our organization and happy for the investors, and that he's got through this process. We've been working on it for over 3 years together, and I'm very happy that it's working for him.
Same here. I'd also think, just speaking about the investors, and like you said, this knowledge sharing, you've always had like investment groups or multifamily offices who would work together. But now by doing things in this digital manner, people can kind of like link up, ad hoc groups, knowledge sharing through doing their own Zoom meetings and just being educated, especially in like complex topics like metals and commodities and mining, or complex topics like cryptocurrencies. This digitization just offers, as well as intergenerational groups, because having people coming in and just educating people about these things is just the way we're all going to become better investors. So kind of like what you said about Ernest, we often talk to asset managers and we give them a lot of tips on utilizing digital events. And so, like you said before, there's always kind of this notion for a lot of asset managers to go on returns. And they really need to focus more on educating the new investors and potential new customers, as well as the current ones. By being a subject matter expert, that's how you're going to gain trust. It's just a better way to present things. It's more transparent. It shows your knowledge. It shows your experience. And that's honestly, in this what we call information age, that's what people are looking for. I also personally think, and it seems like it's counter to a lot of people in the financial industry, I don't think enough communication is happening. Most people probably need to 3x to 10x what they're doing. You can have the best product in the world, but if you're not teaching people, if you're not communicating, if you're not being transparent, people aren't going to find out about you, or people are going to go with the other person who is probably over communicating from your perspective. Certain segments do a good job, such as the crypto. Some others, like real estate, oftentimes don't communicate enough, and they're missing out on the opportunities that exist, because I think investors definitely want to be educated now. With the Robinhoods and with all of the platforms that are making things more self-serve, I think that's going to trickle up to where investors are going to demand that they kind of have more of a say, or at least they want to understand more. And so kind of got to act like a god.
Yeah,
Like,
Jeremy, you're actually an excellent case study.
okay,
You keep your eyes on a lot of different information streams.
sure.
It's something that I admire about you. You're not glued to just one source of information, and even though you're sort of like a Gen X and a millennial, like you're on the edge, and you
Right.
don't really know exactly what you are. You behave more like a a millennial or a Gen Z type person, constantly open to new sources of information. And I think one of the things that's interesting about the conversations that we have about, these knowledge networks,
Mhm.
and how to mine these knowledge networks. um, you embrace all these different types of media,
Right.
and you're very much involved in them. Why don't you discuss with some of the people on the line today, um, what you see as finance and older people and their inability to look outside of traditional forms of learning?
Sure. So one of the places that I get a lot of information is Twitter, and people will, kind of like shake their head or not understand. I think a large portion of it is tuning it to the right knowledge leaders, tuning it to people who have competing ideas, and then kind of mining the comments for the arguments. And so there are a lot of trolls, but when there's a really heated conversation, I think you have people who want to show their knowledge. It's an open exchange, it's free to be adversarial. It's almost this war of ideas. And I think from that, you're able to find really good ideas. I think in the past, people were willing to outsource, or, hey, here's a person that has credentials. They came from a good school. I'm going to trust this person for what they say. On Twitter and a lot of these online platforms, a person's credentials don't automatically give them the right of way, the intellectual right of way. There's always going to be somebody who's out there willing to challenge the person's concept. And I would even say the more pedigree the person is, there's probably people out there who feel like they're intellectually as smart and they want to challenge this person. And so you really get to see some great battles, and you get to really learn a lot. And it, more than anything, creates more questions, and those more questions create more research. I also think YouTube is great because it seems like once you can kind of filter in through a lot of the noise, there's basically a long tail of almost every type of topic out here. There's somebody who's being compensated by the attention that they're receiving through YouTube, and it's particularly the advertisers, who is more than willing to educate you on AI and the latest, latest news in artificial intelligence and mining and cryptocurrency. I mean, it's endless. And these individuals are competing because, there's people who are making 50, 20, 30, $40,000 a month because they have high valued audiences on these platforms, and advertisers are willing to buy space during their live streams. And so,
Jay, really, really quick.
mhm.
What Give me an example of how, like, if you're interested in a topic, how you start to research it using some of these platforms. So you mentioned finding the experts.
Yeah.
Um, so there are steps to take in order to do this. It's not just like, hey, I set up a Twitter account and
Right.
then I start looking at the trolls' comments, get disgusted with them, and
Right.
put Twitter down for 6 years. It's like, let's say you want to get good at short selling stocks.
Right.
How would you go about um, setting that information flow up so that you can actually, you know, you can mine some of this deep knowledge and finding good short stocks to actually short in your portfolio?
So I think that's where you start with the specific hashtags like volatility, short sellers, uh, people, those niche topics. From there, you will start to see people in that kind of like engagement tab on Twitter who pop up. And I think if they a good frame of reference is if the people do have a blue check, that typically gives them some credence. But from there, you can kind of look over a number of their posts. And once you start seeing the pattern and some of the other people that they follow, from there, that's where you start to connect the dots. Because oftentimes people who are equally as smart, equally as knowledgeable, but may disagree with them, are probably following those people as well. And
So
you're
you
able to,
you may get the tip of the iceberg in a tweet that
Right.
links to, a video blog or a blog where the person goes deeper into the silo,
Correct.
and it allows you to build more knowledge on top of what you already have, I guess, faster. And
As
then
well as a lot of those people will tag other people who they have respect for, and that's oftentimes where I will go and start following those people. I would say so. Where I'm really deep is on a lot of the cryptocurrency stuff. I mean, the information load is just astronomical. It's super impossible to keep up with it, right? There's NFTs, there's uh, DeFi, there's all these different topics. But what those people in that industry do a great job of is shouting out other people um, and having debates with people. The debates will definitely give you a lot of gems, because in those comments, there's a lot of times a third party or fourth party person who is linking to an idea that they posted before. Like the whole Evergrande story. There's been so much coverage on Twitter with people with just different concepts, or one on like shipping rates, why shipping is so expensive. People will go on these tweet streams. I think you can start with like good people like a Elon Musk or someone of influence. A lot of these reporters, a lot of the reporters on like Bloomberg who post frequently, oftentimes there's people willing to challenge them. And so I think looking at some of those people who have well thought out tweets, because there's a skill in being able to convey a complex idea in a very short amount of words. So those are good tips to look at
so
when you're
being
looking for people.
short and concise and being able
Profound.
to like efficiently communicate in 190 characters something interesting, that's a talent, that's a gift.
It's a real skill. Yeah, it's a real
Okay.
skill.
A lot of people today would disagree with you, but um
So
it's
don't isn't like a sign of wisdom and ability to convey complex ideas in a short amount of words.
absolutely. I look at Twitter as an advertisement, right? And then the stuff that you link to is where the real value starts to, like, you're able to start to drill down. Um, but it's amazing how powerful and efficient the process of learning has become. And that's really what, like, our conversation is today, is how can asset managers and investors use these digital tools to invest faster, right? And for instance, we embed all the content that we've published um, through LinkedIn. That's the I guess the social network that we are most active on, where you'll be able to look at everything on demand. You'll be able to register for the content that you find interesting when it's coming up. But the real value is not necessarily in the post itself.
Mhm.
The real value is once you click and you invest the 30 minutes or the hour into receiving a world-class education from an expert that's on the front lines of a specific investment strategy, and it's free.
So
You didn't
something,
you didn't have to pay for it.
right. So something we both learned recently was if you take all the world's data, it weighs the size of a strawberry, right? Which is just mind blowing. But one of the benefits of digital versus offline is, I mean, think about for the last, let's just call it last 50 years, all the conversations that happen at events, and none of this stuff has really been transcribed. And now we're in a digital world where not only are these conversations going, but once it's recorded and uploaded to YouTube and different sources, that info is being transcribed. And from that, insights they're being tracked, they're being recorded, and people can go back and harness this stuff to make themselves smarter. I mean, to me, I'm very optimistic about the future, because I think the general IQ of America, even though it doesn't always seem like it, I think is going to rise because we're capturing.
So people don't really even understand they see a video, they think it's a video. How do you
Right.
search a video? Because this is all digital, everything's converted into text. So every single YouTube video that's out there, the audio portion of it is turned into text, and that text is very searchable, right? So you can go into these digital catalogs and start doing deep research. You can start doing, like fact checking. Is what's in the presentation same as what he was saying a year ago, or is there drift in his story, right? Professional allocators rely on these tools, but they're taught to take notes during the meetings and to jot down their facts. So when it comes time to meet for a follow-up meeting, did the guy forget what he said the first time? Has something changed? If it has changed, what's the reason for it change? Is there an explanation behind it? It's called doing your due diligence, your research. So having the amount of content that happened over the last 18 months, digital, in a digital format, completely searchable. We're at the very, very early stages of the acceleration of these tools, and being able to conduct a proper due diligence without having to leave an office or a home, so that you can make a good investment decision, so you can make a good hiring decision. The whole digitization process is much more efficient. It's much more effective. And what Jeremy and I agree on, there's a lot of things we disagree on, but one of the things that we do agree on is we believe that the different generations are in different stages, and some of them are in a denial stage. They want things to go back to pre-pandemic,
Right.
and others they know nothing else. And I use the story about Charles Schwab, and prior to Charles Schwab in the 70s, people used to know who their stockbroker was, and this guy Charles Schwab had an idea to not have a relationship-based business, but have a business where somebody could just place a trade and it would be low cost. And he went after people 40 years old at the time, and his business was failing. He was targeting the wrong audience, and he figured it out, and he went after a younger generation, and some of them didn't want to know who the broker is. And that's what made Charles Schwab grow and thrive, through the 80s. And then the creation of the internet took it to an entirely new level with hundreds of billions of dollars in custody and a massive platform today. Our civilization's going through a change as a result of all these digital tools, and you're either changing with it or you're getting left behind.
And it's going to become more apparent in an exponential fashion, because the people who are using these tools to do the due diligence, who are learning how to gather the transcript data, who are learning how to work with developers all over the world to build customized tools to measure this data, on both sides. People who are learning how to, on the asset manager side, do reporting faster, be more responsive by using technology, they're going to win because they've got the edge. And it seems like people are definitely trying to slow that down, but you've also got, I always say Robinhood and crypto, regardless if, they're not taken serious, they're training the next generation of how financial services should be. And so people should anticipate that a lot of those demands of instantaneousness, customization, that people are demanding or getting accustomed to in those services, they're going to be coming to the traditional financial world as well.
So Jeremy, we have Cheryl who's joined us, and we don't want to be hogs of
Right.
Cheryl's time.